In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a carb clean on one of these mini bikes. These mini bike engines are all relatively the same, so the steps should be pretty similar depending on the different models, but I'm going to show you on this 196cc Baja 200. Now for the sake of time, I will be using a socket and ratchet instead of wrenches, but wrenches work just fine too. First thing you guys are going to need to know is where the carb is located on these. So the carburetor controls fuel. Fuel comes from the gas tank, through a gas line, down into this. Behind this cover is where the carburetor is. So it's as simple as just removing these two bolts. This will slide right off, and you'll have access to your carburetor. Now before doing anything, you're going to need to switch your gas off and your choke off, or choke on in this case. Now you can go right ahead and loosen up these two 10mm bolts. Once both of those bolts are removed, you can pull off this air box right here. It may be a little stuck from how long it's been on there. I actually forgot to mention, on some of these they have a bolt that sits right down there that holds this whole housing on. That needs to be loosened off entirely. It's as simple as just pulling off the top cover with the wing nut and then pulling off the wing nut on the filter. Very, very simple. That is self-explanatory. And just like that, this piece pulls off and it reveals your carburetor. Now this next step is the most important step of this entire operation. This is your fuel line. This can go bad really easily, and it can start to get hard and break, but if it's still soft, it's still good. You don't need to replace it unless it's like hard, which is really easy to replace. But what I like to do is I like to take some vice grips and I like to lock them onto the gas line to stop the flow of gas. You may need to use some pliers to pull the gas line off of the nipple right there. So I'm going to do that real quick with some pliers, and I'll come back to you. And just like that, the fuel line is loose from the carburetor. Notice there's no gas coming out. That's how it should be. Gas can still leak out if you don't plug it, like how I did right here. So now I'm going to show you what to do with the carburetor. Now if you look closely here, there should be this line up here. This is your throttle. This needs to be, you need to kind of pull the carburetor out a little bit. No, sorry. Let me adjust my phone there. Pull the carburetor out a little bit and then pull this piece up and out of that housing. There's also a little spring that you can just kind of remove from that little hole there. And now your carburetor is free. It should pull right off of these studs. So mine's pretty cruddy. It does run fine right now, but I figured a rebuild will need to happen soon. So I'm going to show you guys how to do a rebuild on this. Now that we got our carburetor removed, we can look it over. This should move freely. This is your throttle right here. This is what controls how much gas goes into the engine. It's your choke lever and your choke right there. But more importantly, there is still gas inside of this. So what you can do to remove the gas is take either a 10mm socket or 10mm wrench or a screwdriver and loosen up this bolt. So I'll throw my 10mm on there and just make sure you have something to catch it. I'm using a Clorox container, but you can use pretty much any container. Okay, now that it's loose, should expect a little bit of gas to come out of this carburetor. Whew. That's some rough gas. Give it a couple shakes there. We'll set this off to the side. So you're going to want to remove this bottom bolt to get into the bowl. This is where your jets are. Your bowl will pull off. You might need to tap it a little bit. The bottom of it looks alright. Now if you look closely, this plastic piece right here, this is your float. If this isn't moving freely, then you've got a problem. That would be the first thing that you want to clean. I'm going to show you guys how to clean that. Mine obviously doesn't have that problem, but if yours did, you would pop out this pin, set that off to the side, and then pull straight up. This right here is your needle. If that doesn't come out easily, You can wiggle it a little bit, but that just gets fastened right like that. And I'll just put it back for now. Pretty much you would just clean there if it doesn't want to move, or clean the pin that we took out. But in most cases, you will have a jetting problem. Jetting problems are pretty easy to fix, and there's like 3 main methods that people use. So what it's looking like for these is down inside of this hole, there will be a flathead spot for you to take a flathead screwdriver and remove the main jet. So I'm gonna go grab a flathead screwdriver and I'll show you guys how this should come out. So now you're just gonna stick your flathead screwdriver down into there and loosen it out. It might be kind of difficult. Don't put too much pressure and strip it out. Make sure you have the right size screwdriver for it. Out goes the jet. Maybe not. Thing got kind of stuck. There it is. So this is what should come out. You have this like cap, and then here's your jet. These two, these are what mostly goes wrong. And I can already see this is a little bit clogged. It did still run just fine, but it will run better if I clear these out. Your best way to tell if these are any bad is by holding it up to light. Let me show you. So you're going to be looking for air through all of these holes, looking for light through all the holes. You can see 3 of them here. I'm sorry, this isn't very steady. 3 of them you can see through. The other 2 you can't, and you're going to kind of go around because there's more holes on each side. But I'm going to show you how to clean this out really quickly. So many people will swear up and down that carb cleaner is the way to go. Me personally, I haven't had much luck with carb cleaner. So what I like to use is I use some compressed air. So I have a tire inflator here that I like to use, but also I don't know if you guys can see this. Right here is a bristle from a wire brush. This pokes perfectly through those holes and clears up any gunk that got stuck in there. This is like the first way that I learned how to doing it. It's very simple. Doesn't need all that compressed air bullshit. But let me just all you're gonna do is go through and poke every one of these holes. Try to clear up the gunk, and then go down the main hole here. Just make sure you can see light through every hole in this. If you have access to some sort of compressed air, this could be a better way for you. So hold it up to the very end there and just do both sides. Get some of these side holes in again. That's what I usually will do, and it cleans it out pretty well. But you're going to want to make sure you can see light through every single hole in that jet. So I've gone through it, and now I can see air, or I can see light through every single hole. So we're going to go and just reinstall it the way that we took it apart. This, I don't know which way it comes out. I think it goes like this. And then this piece, also make sure you've cleaned out this piece. Should just be one hole that you clean out on this piece. This piece gets installed with the flathead notch facing up. Okay, so now that that's tightened down, we're going to reinstall the bowl. The bowl can be put on in any direction. It actually doesn't matter. But as long as you have that middle piece lined up. And for my carburetor, it's looking like the one that doesn't have the flathead or the Phillips head notched into it. That's going to be the main bowl. And just make sure you tighten it down. Make it snug. You don't need to over tighten it. Just make it snug so that that gasket seals. And then same thing with your drain screw. Now I know the outside of it doesn't look very good, but it will probably run just fine. If you are still having issues with it running, try and see if your choke is messed up or if your idle isn't turned up. Now let's reinstall our carburetor. So if you remember, this should slide over the studs facing with these levers facing towards you. And then this piece will snap into place and your spring will go into that little hole there. Kind of looking something like this. Now we can slide this back and install the fuel line. Make sure you put that hose clamp on it. Now you can release your vice grips, and don't turn on your gas yet. You might still have to do some adjusting. Next thing to go on is your air box. Mine is currently in pieces, missing the air filter right now. I'm going to reinstall that afterwards. But remember, this is a vacuum line. This doesn't actually need to be hooked up for it to run, but it's pretty good practice to just hook it up to that hole right there. So I'll do that real quick. So now this is all the way on. I'm just going to reassemble the top of it that I had to take apart. Now simply install these two 10mm nuts onto each of these studs and tighten them down until they're snug. Now after tightening that up, you should be done with your carb clean. Let's go give it a try. Okay, so now that we've got this thing outside, we're going to turn our gas on, which is the bottom lever, and our choke will stay on. Make sure we turn our kill switch the right way, and hopefully a couple pulls and this thing should be running. Remember, gas is still getting into the carburetor right now since we just turned off, or just turned on the fuel, so it might take a few pulls. Once it starts to run, you may need to turn it off of choke, mess with the choke a little bit. That's how you clean a carburetor on these things. They're very simple. They're same with your Predator 212s. Same with your go-kart engines. Very, very easy, quick fix. But that's about it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I left anything out. Any questions. Let me know.